today and share, let's say, these 90 minutes. I suppose we will have time to know each other today. I will try to give you a little bit perspective of what Huawei is doing in terms of intelligent computing, or what we are saying, what's usually called AI computing, to bring you closer a little bit, even the company, as we all know that it's perceived like purely a company coming from China, and all development and all even cases mostly happening in China, what is not true. And I will present you some maybe interesting details so you will know how Huawei is operating in Europe and what kind of cooperation you can have. And I will present, of course, portfolio and some references. And of course, after that, our partner from SiloAI will present how this cooperation is working with us and what they did. So let me give you some introduction about our company, because I suppose that most of you probably didn't have chance to dig about it. And in the last, let's say, 2 years, we are very popular in the newspapers and generally on media. So we are a pretty big company. We have around 200 employees, and what's interesting is that half of our employees are working in R&D. That's bringing very dynamically environment in the company. And I can tell you that sometimes Huawei looks even like a big startup. I will say one of the biggest probably in the world today. We are already presented, of course, in 170 plus countries, which means that generally we are in most of the countries, in Europe for sure. And even if that's some small country, if we are speaking about in our region, some Baltic countries, we for sure have even all, not big, but we have offices and our representatives there that are handling work and services together with our customers. In different kind of rankings and branding, we are growing, and in this year we're 49 as a global brand. But what is more important is generally that we are growing, and even the last year that was very challenging. We made some growth of about like 3.8%, and as you see, this is some big numbers. And this is the four main, let's say, focuses that our company has. So Huawei is coming from its core business, that is generally carrier business, meaning that big market share, even to today, when we are speaking about 4G and 5G in the world, is covered by our portfolio. And when we are speaking about carrier business, we speak about all the technologies needed for, let's say, single transmission, its processing, and generally building even the infrastructure, the base stations. Yeah. So that was the core business, and that was the main business for a long time. After which, let's say, in 2015, mostly, maybe even before, but we become more visible in terms of consumers. So everybody that of course are not in our ICT business, when we're discussing and they're asking me where I'm working, and I'm saying Huawei, oh, see, I know our phones. Yeah. So consumer business is of course not only about the phones. Consumer business is about tablets, is about notebooks, is about smartwatches, is about different things, including some IoTs that you can use around the home. Of course, this business is much bigger, let's say, in Asia, but in Europe we are very present here. Enterprise business was struggling for some time in terms of, let's say, development, because carrier is a little bit different, so psychology of in our company needed some change of mindset. But let's say that last year we already achieved that carrier business and enterprise business inside the company are similar. Of course, consumer business is a little bit today now leading, and this is a big success. Meaning that in enterprise business we are covering all the enterprises, including government sectors. And of course, we have cloud business. It was till recently called Cloud and AI. So I was in that one. which again, maybe is not so famous here in Europe, but generally Huawei is the one, is a very big cloud provider. And Huawei is the second biggest cloud provider in China. And if we are speaking about Europe, you probably didn't see us that much because we are working with our partners. So our partners, and generally the Huawei technology that is below the let's say branding and user interface and let's say services are Deutsche Telekom and Orange. So Deutsche Telekom, you probably know that they have OTC cloud, and Orange has a flexible engine cloud. So both of these clouds are working on Huawei cloud technology, and fully, let's say, not only in terms of hardware, but even in terms of software. And today we are still working as partners, and all our colleagues are taking care about maintenance and upgrading and everything that is happening. Why this is important is because these two clouds are part of three top biggest clouds in European clouds. So OVH is one of them, yeah, and we have OTC and flexible engine for Orange. And I think it's important to mention this fact because not many people knows it, that we're involved in that business that much. As I mentioned, one of the things that is very important here is that Huawei is investing a lot of money in development. When we are saying a lot of money, last year, even under all these pressures and problems that we had, we invested 18 billion euros in R&D. What is the generally 16% of annual revenue in 2020? I didn't bring the graphics here to show you how it's compared to other ones, but believe me, we are in the five biggest companies, 5 companies in the world, financing that much R&D and putting back, let's say, what we made from the market in development. And generally, in the last decade, meaning the last 10 years, we invested 95 billion euro. It's a pretty big amount of money. And from the other side, it's very important to understand that all these technologies that you have today, 5G, 5.5, 6G, that is coming soon, let's say relatively soon, AI, all this was developed for this kind of investments. And I don't have this kind of analysis to show you because I didn't want to go so wide. But one of the very important things to mention is that generally Huawei is a very transparent company. I'm working in the company for more than now 5 years. And I can tell you the only thing that is not transparent is Chinese language. And this is something that it's very hard to learn. Everything else is very transparent, and what it's maybe surprising, but most of the software that generally Huawei is creating and you're using as a Huawei user, it's open source. And Huawei is one of the biggest contributors of open source society, and we are part of the Eclipse Foundation. We are part of different commitments like OpenStack that is very popular. It was very popular for the last 5 years in terms of cloud, and we were like in 3 biggest contributors of open source for OpenStack. Yeah. From the other side, there's a lot of different things that you can see in this timeline for let's say last period, so you can understand how fast we are growing. And it's not about the growing; it's how good products are coming from our research and development, and why I think they're good. Yeah, because generally all of them are very widely accepted on the market, and they're bringing even the solid revenue for the company. If we are speaking about probably some of you that already were working with AI was having let's say different kind of experience with IoTs. Yeah. So if I will start at 2015, we came out with something that is called NB-IoT. And today, all the carriers are, for example, using this protocol to make the connectivity for NB-IoT, just to give you the idea. Yeah. From the other side, of course, we can speak about what we are doing in a phone, in RAN, but from the other side, if we are speaking about intelligent computing, we officially came out in 2017 with our first processor for AI. In 2018, we are coming out with ASCENT 310, what is the inference processor unit. And generally in the same time in 2018, and I was in that time in Shanghai with our partners, we are announcing our training server and our training, let's say, processor unit. And you can see that generally in 2020, we already have very significant ecosystem, and I can tell you significant even revenue in terms of AI. So ASCENT is the one that we are using as a training, and I will give you a little bit idea about it. Of course, 2020 is a little bit less famous during the different kind of PRs, but we came out with our new version of, let's say, our operation system. Maybe you heard about Harmony because of the mobile phones, but from the other side, we are using this operation system for the TVs, for different kind of, let's say, consumer products. And this operation system can be, let's say, deployed on most of the devices that are, well, let's say, smart devices. So generally, we are thinking about it as a one operation system for all the smart devices in our environment. Of course, we have a lot of smart car solutions, and we're working with the biggest, by the way, vendors in the world, and in China, they're using most of our hardware and software for, let's say, navigation and smart functionalities. As I mentioned, we are globally presented, and what's more important is how we are positioning ourselves in Europe. Yeah. So first, we have, it's like today a little bit more than, I think it's around 15,000 people working as a local staff. So I'm not counting here our colleagues coming from China. And it's very important to understand that not all the products and all development is happening in China or Asia. Huawei in Europe has 23 research centers. That's a significant number. And if we are speaking only about the AI, I can tell you that you probably don't know that, but the research center that we have in Helsinki is working with the in the area of AI. And by the way, our research center in Finland is working with Tampere University and other universities. Yeah? We have one research center in Paris doing AI, one in Munich, one in Warsaw, we have one in Moscow, and we have one in UK. Maybe I missed one, and I know that we are building one in Budapest. So this is the only research centers that are, let's say, developing AI, different kind of fundamental technologies. And we have, of course, these 23 taking care about wireless, about batteries and energy, about the networking, depending, of course, what exactly this, let's say, area is specialized and what kind of talents has. Yeah. So Huawei is a part, it's important to mention, yeah, that Huawei is generally the part of all associations and generally big standardizations, let's say institutions, and even in AI, not only in wireless, that we are so famous. And we're working with the biggest ones, yeah, and just some of the, to mention, for example, GAIA-X is today very important initiative for Europe and very, let's say, I can even say trendy. So, sorry. So Huawei is invited from day one to be the member in GAIA-X, and we are in all working groups supporting this, and of course proposing our concepts. From the other side, for example, we are working with the FKI. This is the Germany Research Center Association of for the AI. We are of course working in Finland with a lot of your associations, including the Finland Center of AI. We are working with NURA. NURA is in Norway, again, association for research centers in AI. So with Fraunhofer and DFKI, we have joined some for years already, some projects. So generally, Huawei has a presence, strong presence for 2000 in Europe, and we are working with most of the universities, but this is not visible because generally this is coming from the R&D. And we are of course involved in Horizon 2020, and we hope that we will be involved in projects of Horizon Europe. So something visible, yeah, for you. As I mentioned, Deutsche Telekom with OTC and Orange with Flexible Engine as a cloud providers with our technology. We are getting a lot of times challenged with who you are working. We don't see you. Where are you? This is only HPC. So this is a high performance computing, of course, having AI inside. So you can see that if we are speaking about manufacturing and big industry, you probably don't know that Mercedes and Volkswagen and BMW and Volvo and Saab and Audi, all these guys are working on our high performance computing. So all the cars that we are driving generally are done and designed and tested using our HPCs. From the other side, one of the strategic and biggest partners in science for the last 5 years is CERN. Is one of the biggest science, let's say, centers in Europe, maybe in the world. Recently, for example, PCMC, what is called here in Poland PCSS, because I'm sitting in Warsaw and I'm responsible for Central Eastern Europe and Nordics. We did a huge project with a huge number of petatops. So generally, even Canada, yeah, you know that we have again something in PR with Canada, but Computing Center of Canada is working on Huawei HPC. So we are here. We are working in some, let's say, in scientific and manufacturing niche, and we are here in Europe. That's important, maybe message to say. And of course, you see a lot of different universities. So let's discuss a little bit more closer to AI. Yeah? Trends, as you probably know, in some fields, probably more than I, we have a lot of different movements in the last 5 years where we can say that generally from centralized computing, we are going more to the edge, and even not to the edge, even to the devices. So you probably know that one smartphone was, let's say, today much powerful than computing centers sending in 70s and 80s space shuttles in a row. So this is something that is changing totally perception and building the solutions. And of course, today everything is about cloud and data centers, but we have totally, let's say, forecast for the next 5 to 10 years that everything will move more to the edge and more to the devices. Yeah, because today, for example, you don't need anymore to have data center to process something that camera is recording. Today, it's enough to have, you can put small processing units. I'll, by the way, show you the one, I have it with me here, home, yeah, because we are working mostly now for home because of the pandemic. You can put it inside and you can have in real time fully, let's say, processing 4 algorithms in the same time with the, let's say, with, for example, just one algorithm can process like recognition of people for 200 or 300 people just on one algorithm. So this is the big power coming to the edge. And of course, this is, let's say, helping to make the solutions that are coming now in manufacturing. And, you know, everybody's asking, why AI now, why not before? You all probably know that AI started to be scientific topic from 1960s when first algorithms were made. But generally, last 3 years, that become a hot topic and available for us that are not directly connected to HPC, but we can now do this in some small office environment, even home environment. And everybody's asking why. First, of course, because chipsets become much cheaper and much powerful. But from the other side, environment for AI become very, let's say, good, simple word, because now it can be used not only on the data center, but generally on the edge and on the place where it can bring the biggest benefits. And why is that? One of the things is technology that brought 5G, and not because 5G can help you to send by a wireless network gigabits per second, but because generally it's one thing is they're very important. It's called latency. So speed of reaction, and this is very important when you have industry lines. Before, you needed to have everything connected with optical cables, to have computers very close to the industry lines, and that was making these solutions very heavy and generally very complex and very expensive. From the other side, industry lines have a need to react very fast, so you cannot put the industry line to work and then after like 3 seconds to tell the machine that, you know, they need to stop, because you will already have some failure and big expenses, let's say, throwing this out. So today 5G is solving these kind of problems and latency. And I will just give you the example of latency, yeah, because everything needs to be close to the real time. And probably most of you doesn't know the fact that generally a human brain is working on a latency of 3 milliseconds. The speed of reaction or latency of 5G between mobile station and generally the device is 1 millisecond. That means that generally the latency of the 5G is 3 times more faster than the brain. And for the human to have, let's say, to recognize some object, you need 14 to 15 milliseconds average. For 5G today, between, let's say, device to the data center and back, it's more or less 30 milliseconds latency. So you understand that generally today we have the environment of latency and work between device and the data centers close to real time, and this is bringing a lot to AI. Of course, 5G as a technology, not because it's Huawei is very famous about the 5G, but generally the second thing that is very important is that now it's much easier to connect all devices in the environment, because before mobile network couldn't handle this much of devices and data going through the network. Now we are speaking about 1 million terminals on square kilometers, so that's bringing these benefits for the AI. Sorry. So what we can notice here is that generally we are still working on the algorithms, fundamental algorithms that came out in 80s and 90s. And of course, one of the biggest questions that we are having connected to AI is a popular question. Will AI, let's say, replace the human, in terms of the work? Not, of course, it will not. And we are far away from what what really is artificial intelligence. But people are getting this, of course, impression, because if you will look on the main algorithms that we are using today, you will see that generally all algorithms are connected to, let's say, perception of the human. So, vision, speech, let's say, senses, yeah. And of course, it's normal that generally population and human being wants to improve his performance, and this is why algorithms are coming here. But what's more important, finally, we are starting to develop some things that are like game decision making, and something that is much more closer to what we're calling artificial intelligence. So all this is, of course, bringing us to future development and better adoption of AI. And if you will see, of course, we all know that Moore's law is not working anymore, and that we are separating now tasks to different type of the chipsets and processor units. So in the last, like, say, 3 years, we see that we have first we are going from CPU to FPGA, then to something that we are calling a GPU, and now we are coming to neural processing units. Yeah, something that is more specialized and close to sorry, to processing of neural networks and what we are calling AI. Yeah. From the other side, of course, there is more and more data coming from different devices, and unstructured data, and it needs processing. The only way to process the data is, of course, to use specialized processing units. So all this, of course, is pushing us to some explosion of data, and of course to AI. But from the other side, all the countries are trying to use this, of course, to increase GDP, national GDP. And you can see that, some countries are expecting that till 2030, the GDP will be 26% growth based only on influence of AI. And this is coming from the different kind of data, but just for you to understand in which environment we live, maybe not so visible on the surface, is that this year we're expecting to have 7 billion of IoT devices, yeah, and that means that it will be 1 million devices per hour, or 300 devices per second installed. 300 devices per second installed, and 3 of them will be industry, and 2 of them will be in the proportion, 2 of them will be in the consumer. So let me give you a little bit information what generally AI is doing in Huawei, or what Huawei is doing with AI. So first, through these research centers that I mentioned, we're investing a lot in basic AI research, meaning that development of these chipsets that we discussed, and of course different kind of algorithms, fundamental one, and everything that is connected to this. And this is what we are doing to the research centers that I mentioned, for example, in Europe. Yeah, we are co-financing some projects or financing some projects to universities. Universities are developing new technologies, and we are, of course, looking what we will do with them and how it suits the industry, because usually universities and industry and generally science are a little bit different things, and they're not working together aligned. From the other side, we are developing end-to-end platform, and I will show you that, because generally Huawei is having devices, but has all full stack of supporting these devices, managing and developing the let's say, software components, and of course AI solutions. And I will give you a little bit more information in a second about it, but just for you to understand, Huawei supporting all these stream frameworks like PyTorch, like TensorFlow, like Caffe, like Keras. So, and of course we have our developments, but on the first place we are supporting what is already on the market. Third thing that is very important for Huawei strategy is, of course, that cultivate talent and open systems. That means that we are working with universities in for education, building the AI platforms, building different curriculum programs, and implementing them in universities all around the world. Third, the strength of the portfolio. Generally, our technology that we are using in and building through the AI is not only independent products for itself. As company having, I think that we are one of the rare companies, maybe now the only one in the world, having in ICT area covering all products. And that means that we have a lot of product lines, and that, and from the other side means that big expenses, big industry lines, and we are trying to use our experience from one product and product line to another. And this is helping us to develop, let's say, much competitive solutions on the market, and from the other side to cut the costs. So we have AI in our phones, we have AI in our storages, we have AI, of course, in 5G, because without AI you will not have 5G, and without 5G you will not have AI, most probably, in how we see it today. And that's one of the main things that we are trying to do, to bring that mindset not only in AI product line, but generally in our. And of course, that influence directly how we are handling things, because we are not implementing only AI in our products, we're implementing AI generally in our production and in our, let's say, company. Again, I will give you an example on the production line. So finally, or we are just starting, we are coming to something what we can call Huawei portfolio. So as you remember, I mentioned that in 2017, we had the Ascent 310. This is the chipset for inference. And in 2018, we announced Ascent 910, that is a chipset for training. There is no difference in these two chipsets when we are speaking about the architecture. The only thing is, of course, the software component or the operators above them, and density of the transistors, so generally density during the production in nanometers. But architecture is the same. And honestly, even the training server, yes, of course, it can be used, but not officially. You can even find inference on it, but because of the big power, we are using it for the training. Both of our Ascent chipsets are developed on Da Vinci architecture. I will maybe give you a little bit more information about it. It is a little bit different like the GPU, because we are producing what is called NPU, neural processing units, something that is specialized on neural networks, and this is where we are winning and why we are having a little bit better performance, to be modest a little bit, than our competitors. So these chipsets are having different formats. Why? Because generally these chipsets for inference, of course, you can find in our smartphones. And we have a format called nano, like nano SIM. So we have nano format of the chipset, and you can find in smartphone. In smart devices and Atlas 200, you can find something called mini. And Atlas 200 is, let's say, a small module, AI accelerator module. That is like 4 centimeters to 5 centimeters, and in thickness is 1 centimeter mostly. 30 grams with performance of 16 tops. I can tell you that a lot of our customers love this product because they can put it in the industry computers with drones, with cameras, and they can get the real-time processing, and it's very powerful. I will give you a little bit information about that. And inside you can find one chip, one Ascent 310. Atlas 300 is our card, inference card. And you can see 16, 64. Yes, we have 4 chips in one card, and this is inference one. So this is what we're usually using for the edge. And we have 2 specialized solutions and products for the edge. Atlas 500, by the way, a product that is very favorite within our partners, and I think that SiloAI was using that one for some of its cases. And again, it's very powerful. It has this module inside integrated. As you can see, it has Wi-Fi and it has 4G module. Till the end of this year, I think it will have 5G module. And what's very important, you can take out this device outside, not only in the data center room, but you can put it inside the room, or you can put even outside. And because and this is the way of it's constructed, and he can provide this computing power, for example, on the crossroads for the cameras, or for the transport solutions. And this is having 16 tops, having more, but we are declaring 16. Atlas 500 Pro is already for, of course, edge small data centers. It's not so deep, so it's very easy to find a place for him. And as you can see, he has 250 tops on integer 8. On the cloud side, or what we are calling data center side, and every data center becoming a cloud today, we have Atlas 300 inference, and in the future you see this this is some new optimizations and way of our we are positioning, because we'll have inference pro and premium. And we have Atlas 300T. As you can see, it's pretty powerful for one card. It's 250 teraflops. And these cards are part of Atlas 800 series services, where inference server, you can put, depending if you're using Intel-based server, or you're using Kupung, again, the chipset for CPU built by Huawei, you can put 7 to 8 cards here. The same thing is with the training server. And you can see this is like declared, it's bigger, but it's their declared performance of these servers. Just for you to understand, because there is some specifics of on coding and decoding, we are doing that on the hardware level on our chipsets plus. This is very powerful server. So if you're speaking about, let's say, cases with the cameras, one Atlas 800 server inference can run about, this is the data that we have officially from our partners that here in Europe are running big systems. They did, on the last generation of Atlas 800, they put it like 860 cameras in the same time, real time, with fully, let's say, intelligent services on it, with different kind of recognition, cars, plates, posture of the human, and all what they are doing to the surveillance software. So after the hardware, it's clean. That we are like Huawei is very famous for the hardware. It's very important to say that above it, and what is running this hardware is first layer is CAN. It's computer architecture neural network layer. And this is something that you can compare to what, for example, NVIDIA has as a CUDA. But the functions are more or less the same. The way of how we are doing are a little bit different, because, of course, we're having a different kind of chipsets, or neural network chipsets. And this is something that you can, let's say, customize. You can write your operators. You can use for this Python, and it's very accessible. Above this, As I mentioned, there is an AI framework. So here, if we are speaking about our portfolio, our product is called Mindspore. And we used, let's say, what we think that is the best from what you can find in science and what's already implemented in terms of neural networks. And we developed this Mindspore framework, and we are convinced that for, let's say, building solutions for image recognition, for speech recognition, this is probably one of the most performant frameworks. Of course, as I mentioned, Huawei is supporting TensorFlow, supporting PyTorch, supporting Caffe, supporting Keras. So we are supporting mainstream frameworks, and we will support more and more. Above this, of course, we have application enablement helping us to develop end-to-end AI solutions. So from generally managing the data sets and coming out with porting this on some device. What is important to say, it doesn't matter. It's you're developing the AI solution for Atlas 200 as an edge, or device. Or for example, you want to deliver this on the smartphone, or you're developing this for the cloud. Whatever your plan is, this solution can be ported in of any of the, let's say, products in our portfolio. Doesn't matter, device, edge, or cloud. And of course, as you can see, we have for different, let's say, some specializations to help you to develop these solutions. But generally, one of the things that is, it will be presented with by my colleague, Tianyu, later today. But generally, one of the things that will be interesting for you when you will look at our solutions in Model U, when you can find a lot of predefined, already trained models that you can customize, and it will help you to learn and develop your ones. And of course, SDK that will be the part of Tianyu presentation today, that you can use to, let's say, to develop some AI solutions in manufacturing and generally even, let's say, the other SDK that is responsible for image recognition and work with images. Where are we today with the, everybody's saying, okay, what's happening further? Because everybody's like, are you staying on the market because you have like so big pressure and restrictions? Yeah, we are. And of course we have a roadmap. Everything is going normally because this is development of Huawei, patented by us. And we are coming out. One of the things, of course, that I didn't mention on the last page, because it's not that much interesting for maybe today's meeting, is of course Cluster 900. This is something that is generally implemented usually in the area of HPC, high performance computing. And I can proudly say, but I was told to avoid the discussions about benchmarks, but still Atlas 900 for the last 3 years is the best performance cluster in the world. And this is tested a few times in Europe, and every year all the competitors, everybody are coming out and showing this one. So we are still working on it in terms of improvement. We are coming with some improvement in the area of training chipsets, ASIN 910, and we're doing some optimization. So this year, we're expecting that generally in production, in our products, you will see increasement of 25%, meaning that, let's say, before it was 256 teraflops, now we are speaking about 320 teraflops. In terms of inference card, something that you saw in my slide of the portfolio, from 64 is going to 88. And tops, and here you have generally increasement of 37. So on the level of one ASIN 310, it's like 37%. As I mentioned, inference cards will start to be pro and premium, and of course it will depend of performance and a lot of, but I think functionality will stay the same. So today, Tianyu, I will leave him to give you more information about using our software products. Software products, of course, we are like for the last 2-3 years are trying to make our best for all the developers to have all the resources here in Europe. Of course, there is a lot of algorithms, maybe a little bit less than you can find with some, let's say, specialized sites and maybe some competitors in terms of, let's say, what was done recently. But from our side, what is important to say, our support is very developed, and if you're working with us as a partner, you're having your engineers directly, you have a Slack that you're using generally, and some other channels, so all the answers are coming out in an hour or two. If not, then generally you can apply through the portal and get in 6 hours from our R&D answers. So in this area we are very, let's say, developed, and if you will try to work with us, you will. And of course you can always ask partners how it looks, and one of them, of course, SiloAI. So industry SDKs, Tianyu will give you a little bit more, so you can see this is what we specialized in 2 areas. It's manufacturing and generally in vision, because manufacturing is industry and vision is generally the area where the technology will be implemented. And we have, of course, smart grid, transportation, healthcare, finance, and robots. And this is something that I will give you some understanding through cases. So this portfolio that you saw and what we are putting as an accent and our priority is like 4 messages. First one is ultimate computer power. It's not because of the name of the company and our experience. It's because the architecture, what is Da Vinci one, with matrix multiplying, that is giving this, let's say, performance. And from the other side, giving the better energy efficiency. What is very important, not only with big data centers, but generally when you're making these independent solutions that needs to work with some limited access to electricity power, or for example, working with alternative sources like, I know, solar panels. Yeah. Third one, we are really, really open and easy to use. When we are saying open, as I already told you, most of our products are open source. Maybe some components are not, but generally whole products are open source, and this is something that is very important. And secure and trustworthy. Yes, for the last 20 years, there is no evidence of any kind of breaking into the mobile network or any kind of what is mentioned, usually the backdoor. So everything is very highly encrypted, and we are coming from the very secure business, carrier business, and all this, let's say, experience we implemented in this product line. So when we are speaking about Da Vinci architecture, generally, as I mentioned already, I will not go too much to the details. This is matrix multiplication. If we are speaking about GPU, is more vector multiplication, and of course this is not today, let's say, so needed to be for neural networks. From the other side, NPU, the neural processing unit based on Da Vinci is, and this is why our performance in neural networks are much bigger, and this is giving us some, let's say, benefits comparing to GPUs. And honestly, this is of course changing. We are seeing more and more competitors coming out with the new architectures, and we are now expecting to see what Intel will make. But for now, as you can see, comparing to other architectures, let's say we are winning in a performance. Okay, performance. This is the module, Atlas 200 AI accelerator. And as I mentioned, it's very interesting. By the way, I will show you now. I don't know, you should see me. Yeah, but because of the shared presentation, maybe it not be so big on the screen. But you see in my hand, this is Atlas 200 module. This is the interface for connection. You can connect it as a slave, or you can connect it as a main processor in a device. And this is like 4 centimeters and 5 to 5 centimeters. So it's very small. Yeah. And from the other side, it's very performing. Yeah. Now it's already 22 tops. It's not anymore 16 tops. And honestly, I got some reports last week from our, it's not a partner. We are working with a company that is producing industry controllers used by ABB, for example, and Siemens, and they are looking now to implement these kind of solutions. And of course, they used before our chipset different ones from different vendors. And I can tell you, this charter is it's truthful. So we didn't ask them to give us report, but they provide us a report, and I can say we're a totally independent company, as we are not having even commercial transactions, and we were even surprised with the results, and we're glad to see that marketing, what is showing here, is generally the same what we are getting from the market, not from marketing. Yeah. As you can see here, last version of this computing device was per frame, could recognize 200 faces. Our competitors can do on the level of 30. Now we can, you saw that we have 37% of improvement of the processor unit optimization. So it's like 300. And at the same time, you can have posture identification, vehicle identification. So generally, you can run 4 algorithms on this small device, or even connect 22 cameras to this small device, and you will get in real-time processing of image. And of course, training cluster that we were mentioning. We have in September now to 2020 new results. Okay, so generally sometimes this performance is not that important if you cannot run it in the solution, and some solutions cannot be run because they're eating too much energy. I will show you later one case we did in China. Now that we are repeating this in other European countries like Poland and I hope soon. Okay, Turkey is not European countries, but is my region. And it's very important that if you can see the performance per watt is much better than generally what we are having from the competitors. And this is big difference. This is something that is helping us on implementation of these industry computers, and whenever your solution needs to be in embedded form or slave form. Yeah, so 2 tops per watt comparing to, let's say, 0.17 or 0.33 tops per watt is a big difference. Yeah, and what I already mentioned here is, of course, that whatever you develop for any product of intelligent computing of Huawei can be implemented of any of it on the portfolio on the same, using the same chipsets. It doesn't matter, it will be the edge, it doesn't matter, it will be cloud or device. From the other side, it's very important to understand that all this needs to be managed through some kind of software. Yeah, because when we are speaking about edge devices and generally devices, smart devices that are running AI, in one point, you will understand that you don't have 10 devices that you need to manage. You don't have 100 devices you need to manage. You probably have thousands of devices or 10,000 of devices that you need to manage. And in the same time, they can be different kind of devices. It can be edge, it can be end device, it can be maybe totally different type of the solution. And for this, we have a software developed called Fusion Director that is helping, for example, here on the case that I will later explain that, for example, camera or drone are recognizing there is an object, but it cannot recognize which object. And of course, it cannot be processed on the inference. So this data is sent to the data center or generally to the cloud in some regions where Huawei is having cloud in like Germany and France and Latin America or Asia and even Russia. And then you're training again your model. After that, algorithm together generally with the image, you're sending back to inference server or sending back to a device. And this is generally done half automatically or automatically. So helping whole system to learn. This is what we're expecting, yeah, that your system will learn and you can do automatically. That system will say, okay, I don't recognize this. And he can help with, call it semi-self training. And this is done with Fusion Director, and we can support 250,000 edge devices. I know the implementation of 30,000. I don't know implementation of 50, but generally for you to know that there is such kind of software and enable this device edge cloud collaboration, what is very important. Because in the end, most of us are developing something for small scale, but industry is asking big scale implementations. And as I mentioned, because we are mentioning the strategy points, we are using encryption from the level of chipsets to the data center. So all the way the data flow, it's encrypted and it's safe. From the other side, when we are saying trusted systems, means that we can even put on high availability. We have products supporting this. So for example, this Atlas 500 that I mentioned, you can put 2 of them. And one can be in let's say, on the hot, as a hot backup, yeah. And in case something will happen with the first device that is processing, the second device start working 2 seconds. 2 seconds in some industries is not so good result. If we are speaking, for example, storages that needs to work below 0.5 seconds, but in most of the cases now for AI that is used, 2 seconds are to have up and running is fair enough. Yeah, important I mentioned, but it's probably I will like to stress here is that we are using our own developments. So generally we are not producing AI to just putting in a server or just to putting in some devices. We are using it inside all other products. So as I mentioned, we're using it in storages, we are using it in routers, you are using it in mobile, BBUs and other different, let's say, devices providing support for mobile network to work. And this is very important. And we started to do that like it's now 4 or 5 years, not anymore 3 years. And this is maybe even why our products are very good on the market and why our storages are one of the best now in the world and mobile phones and all these things. So we're using it commercially to sell on the market, and we're using internally in our products. And whatever we develop, we are first implementing in our company and testing it. And then we are coming on the market with a mature product. So today, SiloAI, of course, will say a little bit about their use cases, so I will not keep here, but it's we're very glad that SiloAI did some elderly care implementations, and it's working, let's say, today in full commercial mode, and thank you for them, because elderly question in Europe is very high priority question, and they will give you a little bit more about it probably later in terms of what kind of functionalities. But by the way, the biggest problem of COVID-19 in the beginning of the crisis was in Europe, problem with closing the borders and people that can come and support elderlies in Austria and some, let's say, countries that are pretty old, because most of the people working as in healthcare as a medical supporting staff is coming from, for example, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and closing the borders made a huge problem. Yeah, so elderly care is very important here. And the second one, of course, they will give you more, let's say, details probably about first project we started. It was a social distancing, and it's not a question about somebody's controlling and you're violating something. You're not violating something. This is the statistics helping people manage in the cities, managing the areas and trying to make more, let's say, safe for people passing that or living there. This is again done in Nordic. Datapult, our partner for Denmark. Tenu, by the way, was working on it directly. He was involved in the project. My colleague that will give you more information a little bit later about the SDK and our environment. And we did this for Vattenfall. When I say we were part of this case, and it's very important and it's very interesting case because we are not only that it's under the water, yeah, and it's pretty complex, even how to put the cameras and be sure that the lighting and everything will be done properly, so you can recognize, so you can have the image that you can use for recognizing the fish and all these things. It's very complex, even in terms of, let's say, how we implement it, because just for you to know, you don't need to use fully Huawei solution in terms of if you want to build something. So if you're already using some of our partners, by the way, I'm saying partners, not competitors, because NVIDIA is one of the biggest partners of Huawei, because we are even providing some equipment with their GPUs, because we don't have a GPU. Yeah, we are not the rendering. So initially, it started with their training servers, again, Huawei training servers, but using GPUs, and our edge was on Atlas 500. So you can use different kind of technologies, mix GPUs, NPUs, it will work, as because the frameworks are one, and generally it can be done easily. So of course, now we are working with Vattenfall. This is another case on other cases, on other, let's see, this is commercial implementation. I'm showing you commercial implementations. We are working already on training server with us and with our NPUs. So what we are doing here, it's very important that Vattenfall, maybe you know, maybe doesn't. This is the biggest energy company in Nordics, and probably one of the biggest in Europe. They're claiming that they're ecology energy company, so they're not using coal or not using different kind of this kind of sources to bring us electricity and heat. They're using water, wind, and these alternative ones. And this is the case when between a river and, of course, artificial lake, and there is a ladders helping migration of the fishes. And they wanted to know in the beginning how these ladders are working. Are they good? What is the performance of it? Are the fishes are using it? How it works? And of course, now it's more about the ecosystem. So we are further recognizing generally the whole ecosystem under the water and looking on the ecosystem above the water, because they're building the objects and they don't want to make any kind of, let's say, influence they want to minimize the influence of the nature and generally the ecosystem. So here, why this is very important, of course, recognition of fish species, and you can even recognize which one is like wild, which one was farmed. And now I can tell you that more and more this case is interesting for the rivers in Nordic, and of course oceanography and this kind of analysis for Nordics is one of the biggest priorities, and we are working further. And of course here are involved few universities that are specialized, of course, for the ecosystem and this, let's say, species. When I was doing recently some to some muscle accelerator and to some startup hubs, we were discussing a little bit about the cases and how unique these cases should be. And I showed them this one. Yeah, this one is again coming from waterfall. And you can see generally they are not complex. You will say even that is like a little bit simply. Yeah, you just need to read the analog measuring, so watch, yeah, and read it and transfer to something digital. But believe it or not, this is very commercial heavy case, and Waterfall was doing different kind of evaluation in terms of feasibility study. So of course you have different kind of IoTs that or you can change all the measurement devices to digital one. But again, we are speaking about costs. Yeah, this is the first what is interesting by the end customer, and they decided to use camera because they have a lot of big, let's say not big, they have a lot of spaces that are having a lot of measurement, this kind of devices, and they decided to put a camera and read from them all. And this way of digitizing this, let's say, measurements in the waterfall from different kind of industry closures, and it's working. And this is something that, by the way, end customer Waterfall is very happy for it. So I'm recommending you, when you're thinking about what you can do with AI, don't think that it's too simple. Sometimes this too simple is what generally customer needs, because he understands too simple, and this is solving his problem. It doesn't matter it's simple or it's like under the water. All of them are solutions and can be monetized. Solve, Norway company. Generally, we did some retail solution with them. There's a lot of course, scenarios that can be done, but generally the first what usually people are looking in retails are anti-theft identification. Yeah, so this is something that can be, of course, easily done, because you can detect behavior, you can detect he took something by his hand or not. And of course, the other things, of course, after the thieves and safety, is you're counting the customers and trying to make profile so you can improve your sales and marketing. So this is something we did with them. I cannot disclose the end user, but generally maybe the case that most of you are looking for. Of course, the success of implementation is in details, and Solve is not the only one we were working on this, but in Norway, this is development we have. By the way, I'm sorry, I just had this slide, so I didn't put it back not put it back, I didn't convert it. It's something that is style of the whole presentation. I will not go in details. I will give you just this overview. This is something that we did in Brazil. This is partner Avantagro, and agriculture is in Europe very, and generally in the world, very, let's say, interesting topic. And what we even in Poland, we're now going to be involved in what is called Droniada with PCSS. This is the biggest high performance computing center, and they're like involved in this robotics and drones development that they ask us to support them. So what we did in Brazil with universities again and with our partners. So first in drone, and it can be in any kind of robot, we are putting a flight plan, yeah, and mapping which area needs to be, let's say, monitored, supervised, scanned. And we're letting this drone to fly there, of course. What he's doing is he's doing some spectral zoning of these fields. And based on this, he's checking which part of this field is generally having a problem, meaning that there is some weed that is not belonging there in terms of it's wild, so it's not cultured, or there is some kind of possible disease. And when he detects some zones like here, or even here, yeah, he's going and making the high definition images. Based on these images, he's detecting what kind of disease this plague, these leaves and weeds are having, or what type of, on the first place, what type of weed is this. And then based on this, recognizing the weed output, the action device, they are sending the drone that is spraying with pesticides or other needed, let's say, liquid, these zones. So if it's plague, they have a special pesticide for that, and they're sending drones and it's spraying. And this is working. And I hope that next year, not I hope, the plan is that next year on Huawei Cloud in all around the world, you will have this device that can be used and customized in agriculture all around the world. We have plus the previous POC case was done with the robots on the field, when a robot can take out this grass that is, for example, wild one, or it's spraying the one on the field. Very interesting case. Working in Poland, they are thinking to shoot with this from this like guns that we are using in gaming, and then to spread this on the apples, for example, because Poland is the country of apples. We are waiting to see how that will look, but this is what is happening with the drones. So when we are speaking about the implementations, so very interesting implementations, I would like to mention the one that we did with the Chinese company in Europe. Yeah, this is important to mention, not only because it's Chinese, but because there is some complicity, of course, doing that, especially in a healthcare. So you know that each country, a part of being, let's say, part of European Union standards, each country has own regulations concerning the data, healthcare, because they're very sensitive. And we did it. We went through all the certifications with our partner company called Yi2 for this solution that is helping to see how much damage COVID did to your lungs, because you probably know that generally when something is getting complicated with COVID, somebody will be sent to CT, computing tomography, to see what's happening with your lungs, because this is the first place that COVID is attacking. And this is a solution made by Yi2, and Yi2 is one of the 50, based on MIT in US, one of the 50 smartest company in the world. And one of the stakeholders is Alibaba. But generally, important here, they're working on our equipment. And we developed this together for University Hospital in Krakow. And diagnosing times is now 10 to 15 seconds. So one CT image is not one image. One CT evaluation on medical appointment is bringing 360 something images. And in 10 to 15 seconds, you not have only analyzed these images, but you have already recommendation and evaluation of how severe your lungs are damaged. And diagnostic accuracy is 99%. Why this is important? You can imagine how many people are coming to do these CTs. Yeah, and you can imagine how many resources and doctors you need to have. And they need to be fully focused. They need to be in a good mood. They don't need to have, let's say, headaches and all these things to notice all the details needed. And of course, usually it comes with 10 to 15 minutes. And again, there is some, of course, problem, not only during the COVID. All these people, all of us, I didn't, but I hope you didn't too, that had COVID, can maybe have some problems in the future with this after these complications. And this follow-up needs to be made. And of course, system in the same time is comparing old ones with new ones and giving you, is there an improvement, or you need to react because there is something going on more. So the record of one hospital, again in China, was 2,000 people going in one day on CT and through this system. So it was per day. Of course, 10 to 50 seconds and you have results. One of the, let's say, our biggest partners today in the region is, of course, ExxonSoft. They're providing different kind of solutions based on surveillance cameras, and they started as surveillance, providing surveillance, let's say, services, but now they're fully AI, and of course they are doing different kind of cases from transport. We are working with them in Europe on transport, queue management, of course, in retail, meaning, so you have even the integration with the cash terminals, and plus they're following what's on the line, so they're comparing, is there any stealing, or behavior analysis, or hot maps in the retail. Very interesting one. Generally with them, we are now in process of smart stations for railways. For example, in one of the countries, we are making the centralized system. So that's a really interesting one. As I mentioned, this is the case that I mentioned that will explain a little bit why this power consumption is very, very important. So, and this is China. There's one big mountain complex in China that was it's pretty costly to support this kind of power lines. And China Southern Power Grid did the following: they put the cameras, just the cameras. Without, in the beginning of our module, they put the cameras and solar panels. And they were sending through the radio channel all the images and streaming what they're getting from power lines. This was done because you can imagine that checking this manually, you cannot check often. And of course, you need to drive there, and it's very dangerous, so you need to go there. And from the other side, honestly, even with the drone, it's helping. But again, you need to be very close to this and drive there. And they decided to put just fixed cameras on each of these poles. It didn't work. Why it didn't work? Because solar panel was not producing enough energy to supply camera to send all these images that were needed. And from the other side, the radio channel was overloaded, because you're sending their pictures and you have a lot of poles and cameras. And they decided to put our module inside the camera, so they don't need to send to edge, and they don't need to send to data center any kind of images. They're sending only by radio channel alert. So they're doing recognition here of some problems, and then they're sending the alert. And based on this alert, they're like reacting. Yeah. So now what is happening? All the solar panel are producing enough energy. There is no overloading, of course, of the radio channel, and this is fully working. And of course, as I mentioned, if something is not recognized or based on on the situation on the power line. This is sent, only these images were sent to cloud or to the data center. They're training this algorithm and sending it back to cameras, and then camera is of course recognizing everything that is on the power line as an object or as a fault. We're doing a lot of manufacturing. I will speed up here because we lack of the time, and I want to leave you a little bit time for questions. So generally, as you can see, that and you know, the manufacturing can be very complex, and of course you have a different kind of edges. And on the first edge, you can find quality inspection, robot vision, man-machine collaboration. On the second edge level, production safety. So this is like when the cameras is helping to not to cross the line and not to be close to some machines, and they're stopping everything based on this. Or device maintenance. Yeah, this is one of the cases that is most interesting in recently 3 years. And of course, then we are coming to edge 3. It's the factory security. Above this, of course, you have a platform and data center. But what we are, for example, personally using as Huawei. Okay, this is not the version with the movie, but generally we're using in our factories already quality inspection with AI, our AI. So we are having with the OEM partner develop the industry server that we generally are using now for quality inspection. So for all our boards that are coming out, motherboards, it doesn't matter for the servers or it's for the consumer. And by the way, when this period of COVID-19 will pass, we have now a few factories that are open for visit, and you can see all these 5G and AI technologies, how they are working. So this is like intelligent detection of the labels and nameplates in our factory. And somehow I moved the movie, sorry. This is something that we did 2 years ago with ABB, computer that, not computer, sorry, robot that is recognizing which kind of garbage needs to be collected in which can. So something again easily done by the module that I show you. A lot of implementation in transport from I don't know, from of course different kind of charging of and control on the highways to different kind of monitoring of violations in tunnels and crossroads. And this is usually done on our Atlas 500 on the crossroads. And this is what we are doing now, pilots all around, let's say, Central Europe when I'm responsible. This is a solution for smart stations that I already mentioned to you. This is what we are doing with the Axon Soft. You can see in terms of you can use it in retail, or you can use it in finance, or you can use it in smart stations. So all this is having the same, let's say, more or less same functionalities with different kind of approach how it will be used. And this is, let's say, for banking, something that we're implementing now. You can just see some of the functionalities. Yeah. You can see here that you can recognize somebody fall, or somebody's trying to take money from ATM, or somebody's having the weapon. One of the important things, by the way, video analysis can help you detect smoke much before and fire before the smoke detectors. You can count, you can have hot maps in a retail store to analyze for the marketing, and analyze who is looking for which products. You can see who is wearing the helmet or who is not wearing the protective equipment or equipment that needs to be done. Of course, masks, or you can do forensics. All these things can be done by AI, and this is already implemented, as you can see. And this is the partner that said that on our server they can run 860 something cameras in real time and process all these things. So I will not, probably I will jump a little bit forward because I need to cover a little bit education. But have in mind that we have a lot of implementation. So generally we are doing in different campuses, different functionalities, of course, identify people with the wheelchair, guiding the visitor to elevator, reservations. In China, it's much easier with this, let's say, face recognition. So you can recognize who is VIP when he's getting in the bank, and you can make a special, let's say, guidance for him. So there is a lot of things that can be, of course, done, and I will provide you with the slides if you want to go through them one more time. And of course, you will have my mail, so you can contact me and get more. In the same time, production and manufacturing, you can use in different cases. This is the case that is done by Exonsoft. One of the railways was interesting in, of course, counting the wagons. One of the things for them was important to see the level of the materials in the wagons because there's a lot of frauds. And believe it or not, usually it's happening that they don't know where is the wagon exactly, and they are reading these labels, and they are finding on which rail and on which train connected. Of course, counting, not only quality inspection. So this is just, I'm showing you for commercial one, looks simple, but it works and makes money. And this is one interesting case that we did in Singapore. It's not Europe, but anyway, to speed up the process of measuring. So as you can see here, the interesting thing is that all these apples are different apples, but generally the measuring machine with our Atlas 200 is recognizing which kind of apple is it, which type of apple, and based on this you're getting the price tag that you're putting. So this is speed ups a lot of queue in front of this, and of course not recognizing only the apples. Yeah. Big cluster. This is on the national level usually made. We did one of the central points for transport in China, and today is one of the still most performing clusters in the world. I will not go through this. Just for you to have a little bit idea how we are working with the partners. You can always call us, and we're always here to support you. Generally, what we are doing when people are starting to use our equipment is that we are preparing your training, giving you some understanding what's the difference between what you already have experienced and what is benefits, and how you can handle our, let's say, special add-ons for a neural processing unit. Generally, you can get a sample device for development, or you can get the remote access for free for from our company, and of course you are getting support from our team, and Tianyu is leading that part. After that, we are launching together. We are doing marketing together. We have some funding for some conferences, or we are putting on our worldwide site, of course, and we are helping you in sales. So that means that we are generally using our channel, and you can, we are suggesting our customers not only in Central Eastern Europe, but we have success cases maybe around the world to implement your solution, because generally Huawei is not reselling anything. Huawei is making a connection between partners and customers, and then you're going discussing together how you are working with this. As I mentioned, we are working with universities. I will give you more update about it. We are working in Finland very much. Our colleague Li Shukai was, and he's my partner in the crime. We're doing, he's a product executive director, and I'm responsible for ecosystem and partners. And he did education in Helsinki University, Oulu, Kamke and out with Tampere University, we are now trying to do some education slot. I hope that it will happen. And of course, in Warsaw, University of Technology, GM in Krakow, Sofia, Budapest, Tuke, BME, a lot of them, yeah. And we are planning even to have a summary 50 universities in CEE. And for now, I think that we have 36 signed already MOUs with different kind of activities, not only in AI, but we have something what is called Enterprise Academy, and you can learn about our a little bit about more other products. And of course, what we are doing, we're doing education, AI basics, Ascent AI processor, NPU generally, how it works, some programming guidance, development platform, application hands-on. And for this hands-on, we are building the University AI lab, but generally we're using this for some scientific and R&D work. Well, like we did in the BME, like we are now preparing in Tuke, in Warsaw University, and I think in Krakow. And of course, for student practice and for some joint projects like we did in Horizon 2020. Research topics can be different, meteorological studies, life sciences, material science, chemistry, astrophysics, earth geography. So this CAD or K simulations for the car, generally, this is something that we already have a huge experience with BMW, Mercedes, and of course, this is some equipment that we are working with universities. Atlas 800 is usually provided, this training server provided with remote access, so we are providing one training card with 256 teraflops, or you're getting Atlas 200 DK in university as a development kit for different kind of application and proof of concept, or of course, Atlas 500 as something. Our equipment, your algorithms, meaning that, of course, we expect that you have all the knowledge in terms of science, and we are supporting you only in terms of, let's say, technology. So we are helping you with the development environment, optimizing your maybe programming, and helping you in case you have some problems with equipment. And as I mentioned, this is the three main pillars with working with education. It's course design, teaching material development, and a lab building. In terms of research and joint innovation, we are trying to make this gap between, let's say, industry and university and what was needed. And yeah, I'm sorry, it was automatically university development developer contest. We are supporting, and we have even internal in Huawei developer contest where you can develop different kind of concepts and POCs in university and compete with other universities all around the world. And we have them a lot. And then visit China and get a nice prices. And of course, innovation incubation, we are helping a lot of startups inside the university and students to build their solution and go on the market. Yeah, this is just more details how, let's say, our program is looking. So of course, we are first going through, if we are speaking about 3 days, we have a 3 days course that we did, as I mentioned, for example, in Helsinki University. This is for professors, because they need to pass the knowledge and learn a little bit different. What's the difference between NPU and working with Ascent AI, and what is like with the experience that they already have. So as you can see, they're having more details of how it works, Caffe, PyTorch, and MindSpo, and TensorFlow, how they're working on our platform. Of course, you can have even the 6-day course and get the certification for AI. This is another one. This is usually for some students. And what we are doing, like we did in University of Grenoble, we are generally together with our partners, and when I say partners, even the NVIDIA and other ones, and Microsoft, and we are building some ecosystem, let's say, environmental labs together, and helping, of course, industry to, let's say, make this gap smaller with academy. And from our side, for example, what we are doing, we are bringing our partners to work with academies, generally to work with universities and research centers to develop joint solution and go commercially. And from the other side, help to, let's say, develop better talents and talents that will be more adaptable on the market after they will leave the university. So that's from my side. It was like 90 minutes. I was expecting to finish a little bit earlier, but yeah, I'm sorry if I took a lot of your time. It was just, I made a lot of slides for you. So that's it.
This was really good. Thank you so much, Göran. So was it so that you could take some questions if somebody has?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah. So if anyone has a question, you could just open your mic and then go ahead. Well, then if not now, people. Oh, is Sakari? Yeah, Sakari has one. Very good.
Hello. Thanks for excellent presentation. Just one question came to my mind is that there was end-to-end encryption in use between ship and ship in device server perspective. So which encryption is used, and is it modifiable, or are there options what to be used?
We are supporting most of the encryption, let's say, again, mainstreams on the market. So it's not something that, you know, you can use even your customized encryption on it. Just you can use our predefined, or you can use your one, because we just made this kind of, let's say, framework that will lock generally this communication. So it's not something like proprietary of the Huawei, and then you're like, let's say, be the slave of some proprietary technology. We are providing commercial ones usually.
Thank you.
And then there's question in the chat. Can you go and see those?
Huawei devices produce a lot of heat. Are these other processes better in this sense? Yes. First, if you remember, I was saying that power consumption is much better on our edge devices than some of the competitors. And this is directly connected. And even if you remember that one with 2 antennas, a funny guy that is providing Wi-Fi 2, so he's fanless. So you don't even have a fan inside the edge device. And that shows how much power consumption and heat, let's say, processing is better than on the other edges, because we are even using our technology that we use usually on antennas, and we are using that one on our edge device. So the heat exchange is much better. So yes, it's not heating that much, and I think that fanless construction is even proving that one.
And then there's another one from Oliver, which I forwarded to you. Where could we get more information?
Yeah, that's you're talking to the right guy. So we can discuss this maybe if needed, a small session. If not, if there's, let's say, a lot of people interested in this, if not, you can get, this is my mail, people. And you are free to contact me and we can discuss. That's the one. So, and you can contact me directly and we can continue from there. Or you can contact, of course, Anne or anybody from Business Tampere, and they will connect to local office, and they will handle, you know, from there. Ari is our manager in the Finland office, and he's doing that great. So please.
Very good, very good. So,
or even SiloAI, by the way, yeah, then you can contact them plus, so they can help you with this.
Yeah. Okay. So should we now take the 10-minute break and then continue 8 to 11, 8 to 10 in Göran's time, and then we will continue with Kai Knutila. So let's take a 10-minute break and then come back.
Thank you, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.
See you in a bit. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Do we start to be back from the 10 minutes break? And do we have Kai ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
So at least I'm here.
Very good. Okay, so here's we can see your your topic, and then I'll stop sharing now and you can start sharing yours. So please.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Kai Knutla. I'm a lead AI solution strategist at SiloAI. And I want to thank this opportunity for Business Tampere and Huawei to present our company, SiloAI, and the AI solutions that we have done to our customers, and in more details this social distance detector AI solution that we have done for Huawei Atlas 500 platform. Okay, so I stop my video for a while and start sharing my screen. And maybe, Anni, if you can then tell me when you can see my presentation.
Yes, now we can see it.
Okay, great. So let's do short introduction first before going to the social distancing detector on SiloAI. We are largest private AI lab in the Nordics. And here is our path where we are today and where we are aiming at. So SiloAI is a rather young company. We were founded 2017, so roughly 3.5 years old. And of course, we started small, 13 people, 2 sites, Helsinki and Turku. And the following year, we doubled our size, and we also opened up a site in London. And every year after that, we have keeping the same pace, and we have been doubling our size. And this year we are over 140 people at the moment, and our aim is to be doubling our size also this year. So we are expecting to be over 200 at the end of this year. And with this kind of a size at the moment, we are leading AI company in the Nordics. And when we keeping this kind of size increase, we are aiming to be the leading AI company in the Europe during this year or next year. So that's our target, and that's how we have been growing. And who we are and what we do is that we are for our customers trusted AI partner. We deliver AI-driven solutions and products to our clients with the world-class expertise and tooling. We are at the moment actually 140 plus AI experts. Slides are a little bit behind on the numbers. The amount of people that we are getting in is very fast at the moment, so the slides can't keep up to date. One important thing is that from those AI experts, we have over half is PhDs. So to kind of underline that part, that when we talk about data scientists or AI scientists, those our guys really are scientists and taking scientific approach in this AI development. And it also tells about that our expertise is a state of the art. We have a lot of contacts and guys coming from the universities, so we get the latest understanding and information from the AI technology when it's kind of fastly and accelerating all the time, the kind of development there. We have sites in Nordics, in Helsinki, Turku, Oulu, and we recently acquired a company in Jyväskylä, so we now have a site in Jyväskylä also, and here in Tampere we are setting up a site also. We do the announcement next week. I leave it to next week's presentations to do that. But we also have a site in Stockholm, and we have a site in Copenhagen, and we are setting up a site in Central Europe. In addition to that, we have sites in UK, London, and Silicon Valley, where we have customers. So these sites are for customer kind of work. And what we do is human-centric AI. It's important to kind of highlight this fact that we believe that AI development should be human-centric. We believe that humans will remain at the center of the industries. The way of work will change with the AI coming into place. Humans and people can do or skip routine tasks and just focus on the complex, higher value creating tasks. And this is where the AI will help people best. And this is where we focus in our development. And what do we then do? And it's every now and then good to kind of recap what AI really means. Maybe not in this forum, but in many times AI is similar to data analytics when somebody collects data from the, for instance, in industrial machines into a cloud and then do data analytics and can make some visibility from there. Quite often that is claimed to be AI, but that's not of course the case. And when we talk about AI scientists, our guys work on machine learning, which for instance can be deep learning neural networks from sensor data. Or then the other big part of our AI development is around computer vision, where we extract video from video streams or pictures and learn things from them. And then the third part is natural language processing, which is when we use neural networks for understanding speech and then text. So these are the three basic areas of AI and machine learning where our AI scientists work and build those AI solutions, including deep learning neural networks, for instance. And of course, these solutions are, at the end of the day, they are software algorithms, they are software modules, and we do software around those modules so that we can integrate those seamlessly into customers' infrastructure or machines or cloud services or wherever. So we do software and data engineering end-to-end development for our customers. So that's what we do, and this is how we do it. We have a very flexible working model. We do services and consultation business. So we don't do AI products. We don't sell AI products. We do services and consultation business so that our customers can do AI products. So we provide experts as extensions of our customers' R&D teams or service or product development teams. And if customer don't have a own internal R&D team, we can of course do turnkey deliveries. So we do the whole project and everything by ourselves, but we prefer those kind of partnerships where the customer, we are part of the customer team closely. And during these 3.5 years, we have done over 100 productized successful AI projects for our customers. So obviously we have a lot of knowledge how to kind of build those solutions, and every now and then some of those things we reuse, for instance, AI components or infrastructure with the maintenance and support. So so that's when we talk about customizable solutions, and maybe I'll go to the next slide to little bit tell better about that. It's what we call silo operating software, and like mentioned, when we have been doing this kind of AI solutions, over 100 cases for our customers, quite many of those fall into these categories. For instance, visual awareness solution or quality control solution or document intelligence solutions, where we go through the text and try to find patterns there or highlight things there. So if our new customer comes with a problem, for instance, for quality control solutions, we don't maybe want to start from the scratch. Of course, we use those kind of machine learning tools or frameworks like annotation tools, development tools, or operations tools that we have used earlier in similar projects. And this way we are more guaranteed to kind of save customers kind of efforts and costs. So we have a lot of understanding how to build machine learning solutions, and we actually have our own webinar this afternoon where we go through a little bit in more details in this silo operating software and MLOps, as it's called, part of our work. And why to work with the SiloAI? First of all, we believe in trusted AI partnerships. So long-term partnership is what brings value both for the customer and for us, and that's the best way to kind of work with us, and that's what we support, and that's where we have a lot of successful customer partnerships, for instance, with the Huawei. And how can you work with us is to sharpen your own team's competitiveness by getting our PhD level AI scientists working with your team, and we can basically beef up your competencies with our very senior AI scientists, and we can get your toughest problems solved to us. If you think that your own team is lacking that kind of expertise, that you can see later that we have done a lot of different kind of AI solutions, so that if you know that you can do one kind of solution, but you're not 100% sure can your team do the certain other parts of the AI development, we can get you very experienced guys working on those. Or if it's in your own interest to kind of keep your toughest problem on your own AI team, we can do those parts that are still need to be done. For instance, AI engineering pipelines and that kind of part, ML ops. We can help you over there if you want to keep your toughest problems on your own R&D team. Or then we can just basically build everything from the scratch for you and keep it running for production, scale it up in other places. And then a little bit, where do we do our focus segments? So we focus on smart industry and vehicles, smart devices, networks, smart cities and citizens. So basically we do AI solutions everywhere. Just to highlight that fact that in many times there is a lot of good AI companies in Finland, in Nordics and in Europe, but quite often they are quite small, which means that they usually are focusing, for instance, in industry, or they focusing in AI solutions for healthcare. But as we are biggest in Nordic space, then we have possibility to work on all these segments. And a little bit open up this idea a little bit further is this slide where you can see these same segments: smart vehicles, smart industry, smart devices, health and cities. And then those are open up with some case examples that we have done on these segments, different AI solutions. And for instance, I can tell that we have done on smart vehicles, we have done for big German car manufacturers, advanced driver assistance systems. We have done intelligent special awareness systems for maritime, autonomous heavy machinery, something that we do here in, for instance, in Tampere area, in one of the big companies here. And we have done, for instance, predictive aircraft maintenance. For smart industries, we have done visual quality control, camera vision, computer vision solution for anomaly detection, predictive maintenance, obviously. Process quality prediction, for instance, for camera, our latest kind of announcement. On smart devices, we're going to go a little bit further in the details in this presentation after this slide. But maybe highlight something in smart health, because Goran already mentioned some of those nice examples that we have done. For instance, computer vision for home care, where we follow the elderly people, and we have also done imaging for cancer diagnostic, surgery imaging analysis, and so on. And for cities, for instance, we have done water quality and sewage pipe analysis, and so on. So we really do have a large portfolio for customer cases that we have done. I just want to highlight still, this is not something that you could do with AI. This is something that we have done for our customers. All these that you can see on this slide, we have done for our customers, successful AI projects. Okay, just checking time, and now I'm gonna show you what we have done here with this Atlas computing platform. So we have done this solution, privacy first computer vision solution, using several camera feeds with on-premises analytics, and it's a perfect tool for applications as shopping centers, offices, other real estate analytics like conference centers, theaters, and it's a very strict privacy mode, and we have been using this SiloAI solution there on top of the Atlas computing platform. And it analyzes camera streams on site and stores fully anonymized statistics of detected events. So this is a high-level summary of that, and now we can go a little bit more in the details. So what we call is a social distancing detector for COVID-19 purpose, and a computer vision powered platform is able to detect characteristics such as number of people in a space or room, distance between individuals, if the people are wearing face masks or gloves, which is important for COVID-19 follow-up. And then here you can see some examples. So the key features that we implemented here is key point detection for body tracking, limbs, hands, head, bird's eye view, distance estimation, and distance statistics. We have individual safe space visualization, human detection and tracking. We have face detection and analytics so that we can spot old people, young people, gender, face masks, gloves, and those kind of things. And maybe at this point I show a short video to highlight that it really kind of works. So this is the solution in action. Just put it once more. It's just a small or short video to highlight that how when people get closer to each other in narrow spaces, for instance, they go closer to each other. It's good to track. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So why to do this kind of application is, of course, to reduce and prevent the spread of COVID-19 with social distancing, and to follow people that the rules are obeyed, promote safety by automatic tracking and statistic-driven estimates, recognize and protect people with most risk, and automatically enhance social distancing rules as safety distance and wearing of masks and gloves, including automatic overviews. And then the strict privacy first approach, and this is where the Atlas 500 computing platform comes into place. So how this solution has been made is that any of this data or data is not stored on the cloud. On device, meaning this Atlas 500 computing platform, we do the processing of the AI solution and inference. So no personal data is collected, just anonymized ID. Face data is not stored as an image, but as anonymized has data that can be traced back. Privacy protected by creating unique anonymous IDs for individuals. Images are not stored, but instead only the anonymized crowd analytics. And there is no need to monitor. Configurable alerts in the dashboard are there to notify personnel safety guards. So that's maybe the kind of where the human centricity comes into place. We don't need people to looking at these video streams all the time in different camera streams. We can have the AI do the thing and collect the data and monitor, for instance, if they're in some areas or some rooms or kind of conference centers, if there are places where distances are not obeyed or people aren't using face masks, maybe that can be then helped by humans telling people that, hey, there is the face mask needed. And here is an example of a dashboard that can be used. There is different camera feeds that you can select, and then you can see it quite easily with the statistics that how many people are within a safe distance or within a risky distance, and how many people are wearing masks, and so on. And of course, we can then see the kind of, for instance, if we're talking about the conference center, we can see which areas people are in risky distances, heat maps, and we can follow the weekly or daily kind of trends in this kind of thing. So this is the kind of the what can be done to kind of follow up these COVID-19 rules. And that was my final slide. So now if there is questions, I can take some, or if we are already out of time, we can move to the next.
Thank you, Kai. I think we can take few questions if they're either opening your mic or by putting your question to the chat, either way.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks, Kai, for the insightful presentation. What is your stand on the IPRs? And second question after that, what are your business models? Are you flexible with startups?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, about IPRs. We are not AI product company. We are not in IPR business. We are here to help our customers, big or small. We do with a lot of startups work. So we just give AI scientists for our customers use or sell AI scientists. So whatever they do, stays with our customers, and that's how we operate. We are fully services and consultancy company.
And regarding to business models, how flexible are you with the startups? If the startups in very early phase, there might not be revenue yet in place, and so on. So do you have experience on this kind of collaboration?
Yes, we do have experience from startup work. We don't separate it anyhow from the working with the big companies. We don't expect the kind of part of our payments to be anyhow related to revenue streams or anything like that. Just a kind of normal time and material based business, consultation business.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good question. Thank you.
Okay, will there be more, or should we continue to the next speaker?
Okay,
Yes.
if so, I'll stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Tian Yu,
Yes.
it's now your turn. So I'll stop sharing, and you can start share your material.
Yeah.
So please.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for the introduction, and allow me to share my screen. Great. Oops. Yes. So can everyone see my screen and hear me clearly?
Yes, very clearly.
Wonderful. So great. So a bit introduction about myself first. My name is Tian Yu, and I've been working as a AI field application engineer at Huawei for about a year now. Today's topic will be about MindX SDK, developing industrial AI applications. So what do I mean by SDK? Software Development Kit. So let's continue with my presentation for today. So this is the content. So I will be talking about what is MindX SDK, its architecture, and the usual procedure, or let's say the industrial best practice for developing AI applications. Then I will give an application example on its advantages and the use case of it. Great. So let's go for it. Before I tell you a bit more about the SDK itself, I would like to place MindX SDK into context. So my colleague Goran has introduced the full portfolio of Huawei Ascend computing solutions. Essentially, as you can see at the bottom, we have a full portfolio of different kind of devices, from small to left is small, right is really big. Accelerator modules, cards, standard PCIe cards, and also 2U or 4U servers, and even clusters. And on top of those hardware, there is CAN. My colleague has also introduced a little bit, and that is the abbreviation of compute architecture for neural networks. And I think a good analogy, as mentioned by Goran, is that you can think of it as the Huawei CUDA, as to the NVIDIA CUDA. That is essentially enabling the programming on any Huawei Atlas or Ascend device. And CAN also provides the software APIs for resource allocation, resource management, model inference, etc. So, but the main topic for today is for MindX SDK, and where that stands, actually it's right here. So it's, as you can see, that this is a level above CAN, and I think in practice that is actually the case as well. Essentially, this SDK released last October is essentially a high-level wrapper for the a bit low-level software APIs provided by CAN right here. if I am to think of another analogy regarding this, then CAN would be the TensorFlow, and the SDK would be the Keras AI framework. Essentially, Keras is using TensorFlow as its backend. Therefore, Keras is much user-friendly and is much easier to learn and to program. So it is the same case with MindX SDK right here. That's the first thing I want to highlight in this part of the presentation. And the second part is regarding the full stack application development tool that is right here, Mind Studio. I will just give a few words about that. This is a GUI application that allows you program easily. And this tool also encapsulates all the necessary softwares and tools to develop applications on the Atlas devices. So you can think of Mind Studio as a Huawei version of IntelliJ or Visual Studio Code. It's essentially a developer tool that is going to make you more efficient in software development. So that's the two things I think I would like everyone to keep in mind for now, since those information will be very useful later. So let me move on. So before I answer the question about what is Mind SDK, then I want everyone to think of a typical IP camera-based AI application and how it's constructed. Essentially, when we build this type of applications, as I have practiced, or many of you have experienced, you have your data source right here. It's a camera, and in your software, there will be a streamline or pipeline of software modules that's going to handle the data source from the camera. Usually, I would categorize them as, let's say, stream pooling. That is going to that basically direct the camera stream from the remote site somewhere in the field and feed that data to your device. That is stream pooling. Then video decoding, as you know, due to the limit of bandwidth, obviously all the videos and images are encoded. That's why once we obtain the IP camera stream, we need to decode it. And after the video is decoded, there will be AI inference right here. That is closely related to your core business right here. It's either object detection or number plate recognition or human body posture estimation, what have you. That's AI inference. And at the end, there's usually a module that is specialized in result communication. What I mean by that is the structured data that's coming out from the AI inference module is going to be sent to another place or device for other purposes, such as visualization. I think in the previous presenter has already showed a case where the social distancing detection was visualized in some sort of dashboard. That is result communication and further processing of that. So when we think of this type of IP camera-based application, immediately when we start to construct this type of application, we encounter a few scalability issues. I would mention two aspects of it. First of all is horizontal scalability issues. So basically, what I mean by that is the speed or the latency between each modules are not consistent. The way to resolve that is essentially by adding queues or adding data buffers between those modules. That is some work and that needs to be dealt with delicacy. Otherwise, the entire streamline or pipeline will not work properly. And that's the first horizontal scalability issue. The other one is regarding what if you would like to add a new AI inference module, for instance, right here, you have the inference for object detection. After detecting some objects, you crop the image or the region of interest, let's put it that way. And then you would like to use this cropped image for further processing, let's say a image classification module. And this, again, is adding linear increased work into your pipeline. That is horizontal scalability issue. And I would like to mention vertical issues as well. What if you have 4 or 8 or 16 video streams? Obviously, a simple way would be to construct your application as a multi-processing architecture. So in that way, you can easily scale your application up to multiple IP camera streams. That is definitely possible. That has been in the industry for, I don't know, 50 years or something like that. However, I would argue that programming paradigm is not beginner friendly, and it's error prone, and also adding some other resource or physical constraints when it comes to the communication between two processes. Therefore, with the release of MindX SDK, the users are enabled to orchestrate the application process and data flow more efficiently without bothering with the multi-processing programming or resource management, without even bothering with the data buffering between your two software modules. So maybe this sentence is still too plain, and I will give more details in my later part of the presentation, but I think it's a good time that we speed up a bit. So let me actually talk a little bit about the architecture of it. Then some of the questions that I raised in my previous slide will be answered automatically. So some basic concepts right here. Essentially, this on top of the chart is our SDK, and there are a lot of names involved essentially. However, one thing I want everyone to focus here is regarding the central pipeline right here, where you can see that different rectangles are representing different functional modules, such as image obtaining, decoding, resizing, and right here this object detection module. And further processing would be image cropping, classification, and result sending. So those rectangles are representing the element of your pipeline. So what is an element? I think it's well explained here. It's a functional module in a service stream, and that is the basic unit of your application. Is and it's an instance of that particular module from your code base. And I want to come back with the concept of stream. What is a stream? Essentially, the stream consists of logically connected elements that basically makes up your application. And also, it's an instance of your application process. Imagine that you have programmed a Python or C++ class, and essentially you just instantiate that class into an object, and then you can use that object to fulfill some of your requirements. And the third basic concept I want to highlight here is regarding the buffer, the plugin buffer right here. Essentially, as I mentioned, when we need to deal with this type of multi-stage application, the buffers are needed to synchronize the latency among the modules. Therefore, the plugin buffers allows the developers to transmit unstructured data between modules. And it's not only the transmission of data between one module to the next one, and it can even allow the transmission of data from this module to the module and after the next one, etc. And this is very flexible. And we will see an example of how that is constructed, basically. Good. So I want to talk a little bit about the architecture of the SDK. Since this is going to allow us to have a better mind, a better concept of why SDK is capable of making our life a little bit easier. So essentially, there are a few important modules in the SDK. And I think I want to highlight two of them. That is MX plugins and MX tools. Those are code names that are used internally. And what they represent respectively is, first of all, MX plugins are basically the function modules that are already existing in the code base that can be reused directly by the users. Essentially, what that means is that as an SDK user, I don't need to build a module for object detection model inference anymore. I don't need to build a module for image decoding anymore. I don't need to build a module for image resizing or any image pre-processing steps anymore. Those are existing there already. So the second module is about MX tools. Well, having said about all the availability of plugins and the usability of plugins, there will always be a time when the plugins are running out and there will be not the proper plugins that are available for you for your particular business requirement. Therefore, a set of tools are basically provided by Huawei for developing your own plugins. And that is going to be critical when it comes to making the solution more flexible, more powerful. And I think the general purpose of providing such a set of tools for customizing plugins is essentially to enable the community to be able to develop their applications faster and more efficiently, basically. So that's about the two takeaways from this slide. If I am to summarize a bit, then there are a lot of already a set of plugins available in the code base that you can use directly. You don't have to build your wheels again. And secondly, there is a set of tools for you to develop your own plugins if you are really at the point when you need to build your wheels. And that is definitely possible and easy to do as well with MX tools. Therefore, I would like to move on with this, blank canvas. I think you still remember previously I mentioned this GUI development application tool called Mind Studio. The equivalent of IntelliJ instead is developed by Huawei. Well, so I want to essentially just give an idea of how easy it is to nowadays to program with MindX SDK. Essentially, when I open Mind Studio and I can start immediately an application with MindX SDK, and right here on the left column, I have a set of tools or directories where I can select the plugins. And once I can select them, I can essentially just place them and drag and drop them into my canvas right here. And the more I do so, the more functions I add to my application. And the connections are basically customized by you as a user to determine how your data should be flown between your modules. Let's imagine that you have again a few other modules. You want to just connect them, and just like this, it's more of a drag and drop type of programming practice, and that is something called visual programming. I think that is very useful and user friendly when it comes to to the case where you want to develop something fast without coding too much, yet you would like to utilize the hardware performance, I think this is going to be very useful with Mind Studio. So I would like to talk a little bit about what is really happening under the hood. So essentially, when you drag and drop those functional modules from the left into your big white blank canvas right here in the middle, you are under the hood in the background. Essentially, some configuration files are generated automatically. As you can see, that is more or less a JSON type of file that defines a bunch of properties and parameters. And that is something you can write by yourself manually. That's possible. However, wouldn't it be much nicer if it can be generated automatically from this visual programming GUI application? I think that's much nicer. However, in this particular part of the presentation, I would like to highlight a few things right here. Essentially, this is the beginning of this. This is the top of this config file or the pipeline definition file that you can define the name of your application, etc., and which device you can run it. In this case, it's 0, and in many cases you will have hundreds or let's say 50, 100 devices, MPUs specifically, and this is essentially the case when you program with CUDA. You need to specify the device ID. I think that everyone knows that. So essentially, right here already, as you can see, that we are defining some of the functional modules. That is, let's say, image decoding, and that is, you can see that there is an attribute called factory, and that is something called MXPI image decoder. What that means is that this instance is basically generated from this base class implemented in the MindX SDK code base. Is basically instantiated from that class. I think that's very understandable. However, what's more interesting is next, right here. This attribute defines once your image is decoded, where the data is sent to. That's right here, resize 0. Again, you see that this particular module is defined right here with some properties, and especially the resize image resize numbers 416 by 416. That's something highly customizable, and for this particular instance, the same attributes are defined as well. For next step, immediately we see that it's for model inference. And this is the place where you can load all your necessary files for model inference. In this case, it's a YOLO-v4 object detection model trained on COCO dataset. So that is more or less about the MindX SDK, how we program it by visual programming, of course, and what really allows us to build our applications fast is essentially the existing plugins provided by the SDK, and that's the first one. And the second one is that we can easily drag and drop those modules without bothering with the details of having to synchronize the execution of your process without even bothering the details of creating multiple processes for your application. Those technical details are available if you would like it. However, it will be hidden if you would like to take the easier path. All right, so as of now, I have talked about what is Mind SDK, what it is capable of, how it looks like, and how it's constructed. I would like to talk a little bit about the procedure of developing and running application with MindX SDK. How do we really do it? So essentially, the first thing we always do is going to be thinking about what kind of service or what kind of applications we want to build. And then we break down those processes into sub-processes. Once we do that, then we can search for the proper plugins in our code base to see the plugins for your type of application needs are fulfilled or not. And if that is the case, then I think that is perfect, since that means you don't have to program that much anymore. You can use the existing code to build the application already. And if that is the case, essentially we can proceed to prepare a inference model already. By inference model, I mean that you probably have retrained your own, let's say, object detection model or human body posture estimation model. And once you do so, there is a procedure to convert your model to a format that is best fitted into the Atlas or Ascend hardware devices. And that is not the main topic for today, but I think it's worth mentioning that that is a procedure we need to perform before we move on. So once the model is prepared, then we can essentially start to use the GUI application, or if you prefer to just edit your pipeline configuration file manually, then you can just open your editor and start to construct your application in that way. Essentially, that is basically you orchestrating your application process. And after that is done, essentially you can just integrate and start the service and start running, debugging, even at the end deploying your application. I think that becomes very easy. However, I would like to essentially go back to the point to the case where if you do not, or you find that some of the plugins you would like to use to fulfill your application needs are missing in our code base, then of course, I think the best solution is to develop your own plugins using the MindX tools to essentially to do that. And I think this is very similar to the case where you are developing some functional modules for any other software development practice. Essentially, you just define the input and output of your module or your plugin, and then you just finish the service part or the actual logic part of your plugin. And I think that is pretty straightforward, as long as we have a clear vision of what kind of application we are building. Then I think all the tools will be available for you to build such an application. Right. So now we have talked about what is MindSDK. We know what it is. We have talked a little bit about the procedure for developing an AI application. I would like to give you an example of where this SDK is used in practice. So right here, I would like to mention a case where the deployment of MindX SDK was essentially applied and deployed at Huawei Songshan Lake production line. Well, a little bit of introduction about Songshan Lake production line is essentially the Huawei's manufacturing factory, and that is producing servers, routers, and other consumer devices. So that is the production line. In that case, this MindX manufacturer SDK, and of course the brother of it would be the MX Vision, and they are not fundamentally different, but with a little bit more focus at each part. So the service or the application process for the production line was the following. I think you are already pretty familiar with this, probably, that you have video sources right here, and obviously we need a way to decode those videos, resize the video frames and for object detection, and then there will be cropping of those detected objects, resizing again for image classification. And once that's done, the reinference results are serialized and sent for other purposes, for either for logging or visualization. So this is essentially a typical pipeline architecture for this type of scenarios. What are the benefits of it? Essentially, of course, the benefits are coming from two aspects. First of all, the benefit of using such technique, AI technique itself, not just SDKs, such that at each production line, the quality assurance personnel has essentially reduced from, on average, 6 people to 2 people. That means less people are needed at each production line for QA. At the same time, the accuracy for Q&A, for quality assurance has increased from 90% to 99.9% due to the use of AI inference, a little bit more advanced technology, perhaps. And that is from the use of AI itself. However, another benefit of it is coming from the usage of SDK. I think that is illustrated right in the middle, where typically, traditionally, when in practice, when some group wants to construct an application like this, it on average requires about 30,000 lines of code, C++ I'm talking about. And that is on average causing about 60 man-month of human resources, let's put it that way. However, with the use of Mind SDK, the development work has been reduced vastly, immensely, from 30,000 lines of code to 1,500 lines of code, C++ code. If you think about C++, then it's quite minor. It's nothing, 1,500 lines of C++ code. And the manpower to build such an application was vastly reduced from 60 man-months to 3 man-months. That's only 5% of its original, let's say, time cost. And essentially, in the production line, some of the use cases are the radiator monitoring and foreign object detection. And by looking at this sample, I think it's easy to understand and intuitively for us to be able to think that this is quite applicable in many other industrial scenarios where there are production lines, there are things to detect, there are things to monitor, etc. And I believe that with SDK, this type of software can be easily deployed, developed and deployed. I think this is very interesting to look at, obviously, compared to before the time SDK was released, people have to code with quite low-level APIs. Now this is a big improvement. So that will be basically all of my contents for today, and I will be happy to have a discussion about this or answer some questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, Tian Yu. So would there be any questions for Tian Yu?
Perhaps one question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks for a great presentation. Where these SDKs would be available? So how to get involved?
Yeah, right. I can let's do it that way. While I'm talking, I would like to just open a few web pages, and so we can take a look. Can everyone see my screen of this Ascend page?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So let's essentially this is the entry point for any software or hardware or documentation related to Atlas product. Once we go for software, then this is where we find MX SDK. And right here, you will see the basic introduction of MX manufacturer and MX vision. And if you like to, and there are some of the case studies where you can essentially take a look at the source code composed by the Huawei HQ. And essentially, if we go for the learn more details, you can download the software package itself, both for x86 or ARM-based CPUs. And there will be detailed user guide right here where you can see all the contents that I just presented to you. So that is very convenient, publicly available, and ready to be used.
Thank you, Tenju.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions to Tianyu? I suppose if there are no more questions, then we will be sharing the material, if it's okay with the presenters, tomorrow. And then we would, from Business Tampere side, thank you very much for our excellent speakers of today, Göran, Kai, and Tianyu, for the very interesting presentations. And I guess if nobody has a question, then we would close. Does Ari have something to say?
I can just add a few words from my part as well. For any AI related questions when it comes to Huawei, you can also reach out to me. My name is Ari Kärkkäinen, and I work here in Helsinki as a sales manager for Huawei's Cloud and AI Business Group. So if you have anything, you can also reach out to me locally as well. And I can share my contact information later in the email, and I will put in the chat box again my email as well. So feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot for participating.
Did you, Göran, have any last words or?
Honestly, after 90 minutes of speaking without any pause, I'm a lack of words.
Okay.
But I would like to everyone thank you for being in this number, providing this interest in let's say intellectual computing and AI business that Huawei is providing. I would like to thank the team of Business Tampere for this great opportunity and this great session that we had. And please contact us concerning any question you have, even if you will have some questions that is outside a little bit of AI, you're interested in some other products, please contact Ari or contact Business Tampere, and I think that we will find the answer. Of course, we are always glad to see new partners on board.
Okay. I suppose with that, we are ready to close this workshop. So thank you everybody for participating, and you'll be receiving the materials and from us very soon. So have a nice day, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.